Well, let's bring in Colin Alexander. He is a senior lecturer in political communications at Nottingham Trent University and joins us live now. Colin, thank you very much indeed for your time. First of all, what is your assessment of this recent apparent escalation of missile testing in the region?
Well, I think, first of all, to say that the North Koreans have said that this is a drill or a test. I don't really see that there's any particular change in the status quo, and the status quo is pretty tense as it is. So I think we have to understand that militaries and private companies that develop military technology, they do tests like this all the time. The real problem with what North Korea has done is, first of all, that there are sanctions against it, that it shouldn't do things like this, and also that it hasn't informed people that it would be doing this test, which creates a lot of anxiety, as your clip was showing there. So I think that we should just kind of position this in that context, that this is not necessarily a change of any, or it's not an escalation, if you like. We're reasonably accustomed to this. However, it does make everybody very, very nervous.
Well, no doubt about that. What do you think Kim Jong-un's ultimate aim is? Is he trying to develop an arsenal that is a significant nuclear deterrent, or is he using this in some other way as leverage for a negotiation and for perhaps the lifting of sanctions by South Korea and the United States?
Well, when it comes to nuclear deterrent, North Korea has been off and on this trajectory really since the 1960s, since the Soviet era. But ultimately, North Korea has decided that its best method of defense is to create a valid nuclear deterrent. And I say the word valid in terms of the ability to launch it. And we think that North Korea probably has a handful of viable nuclear warheads that it could it could use. But obviously, I mean, the whole point of nuclear weapons is that they're never used. So I think that Kim Jong-un and his father and grandfather before him, they play a relatively neat game, but it's a game of brinkmanship. And games of brinkmanship where you just push it a little bit further and a little bit further. As I say, it just creates a sense of it's a peace, it's a calm, but there's a hell of a lot of fear that goes on as well.
I mean, that brinkmanship is brinkmanship against the United States, Japan, and South Korea, clearly more powerful and better armed countries than North Korea. They're trying to develop a robust, robust response to North Korea. Does it in any way undermine their strength that they have a missile misfiring during their own recent military drills?
Well, in their case, for every missile that misfires, they've got several that are on point, should we say? So I don't think we need to worry too much about that. I mean, this is kind of the problem with military escalation generally, and the armament business, is that when one side does one thing and the other side tends to do something similar, and we have a kind of race to the top. And if we want to talk about denuclearization or demilitarization, what we end up with is a kind of, okay, well, you go first. And both sides kind of aren't really too keen on doing that. We saw this in the Cold War, for example, where we did get some of the way down that road, but ultimately the Cold War is kind of ended by one side outplaying the other side. As I say, this all just adds to a sense of fear and a sense of tension. And also, in the case of North Korea, you're right in saying that it's a country with limited friends and limited resources. This comes at a significant cost to the North Korean people and to the North Korean government, given that they spend so much of their GDP on military aspects to the neglect of their society.
Well, that's right. A fifth of their GDP, I think, is what they spend on it. Colin, we thank you very much indeed for your analysis today. Colin Alexander there, senior lecturer at Nottingham Trent University.